have another update on this mic, and I finally have another update on the TheXTech for Vita, and it's a good one. So compared to the first demo, if you remember the first demo, the first time we looked at this, as you can see, it was technically rendering. Do note the lack of backgrounds. Do note the fact that it's rendering in the standard, what it thinks is 800 by 600 viewport there. Yeah, this was not right. I mean, it was a good proof of concept and everything, and pretty much everything else worked, but not not very indicative of what the final product could be. So the second time around, everything looked a lot better. It took forever to load, and yeah, still no backgrounds. In fact, the backgrounds were disabled because I ran out of memory trying to load them. You couldn't load levels yet either, because just the directory manager was not there. As you can see, we've got some glitches with draw rect and everything. Fast forward to today, and I brought the Vita up on OBS for a reason here. So I'm capturing this with UDCD_UVC. This is something that lets your PS Vita screen act like a little USB webcam. The latency is actually pretty good for what it is. So we are recording at native Vita resolution. As you can see, we've actually got an icon now. Last time it was just the white bubble. And if we open, you can see we've got some live area contents now, just a little basic label and a nice image here. It looks very nice. And the other caveat is that sound does not work. I'm not capturing sound, but also the port sound doesn't work in the port yet. It basically crashes as soon as it tries to load a sound file, so not sure what's up with that yet. Let's launch the game. And I'm just going to let the game load in real time here for you guys so you can see how long it takes. The original, just take my word for it, it took about 5 minutes to load the original. Yeah, that's not very good. But this time, it's going to be much better. And do note, on the capture, you can see some blurriness right there in the Switch logo, but you don't see that at all on the Vita screen. In fact, it's very sharp, very crisp, and most of all, on my OLED Vita, it's very vibrant. And yeah, we're just going to let this load. Alright, and we've loaded in. The game's going to lag just for a little bit while it's doing that initial frame. But you can see we have backgrounds and animated backgrounds too. That's awesome. Some caveats about this port. The back touchpad and the front touchpad both control the cursor here, which, I don't know, I guess that's a blessing and a curse. But the cursor is really only useful in this menu. There's also like a new editor function too that I haven't implemented yet. As you can see, the CPU does chug-a-lug along. See that one core is pinned. There might be some sort of parallelization I can do there. I know that this game also does have its own threading support that I haven't been able to enable yet. I believe that it needs SDL threads for that, and I'm not sure that that's been backported, so we'll see. But when it's not doing a huge scroll like that, you can see the performance is pretty decent. One core is still a little pegged, but all this stuff on the screen, this is the title screen too, and we're still getting anywhere between, well, right now that's 60, you can see in the top left, but scrolling back, we're going to drop down to 17. That sucks a lot. And I'm going to experiment in this video too with overclocking and non-overclocking. So now also we load. So that's the most important thing. Saving and loading works. I have 3 different episodes I've installed here. We're going to play the Invasion 2 mostly in this video because that's kind of like the test, you know? So let's go ahead and load into the Invasion 2. I already have this save here with some levels done. Actually, I think I'm going to load into another one. Yeah, I'm going to load into another one. Oh, and you can see that's one of the first, that's really one of the first major Vita bugs, is that untextured quads are not working very well right now, and I haven't been able to troubleshoot why that is. I meant to pick a different save, but this is fine. Let's go ahead and play through this level, and I'll point out some of the quirks and features of this PS Vita port. So first of all, you'll notice that this is a port of the latest master branch of the TheXTech. So that means we get widescreen support. That means we get whatever's present in this latest version of the build. Now, one of the quirks. One of the quirks of the Vita version is right here. This is just some rounding inaccuracies. This is due to floating point inaccuracy, unfortunately. There has been some work to try and alleviate this, but I do believe that it still needs just a little more work, you know? Not quite there yet. But performance is mostly pretty good through here. You see there's a little stutter there when we loaded something in. Overall, not too bad. See, our frame rate's still maintaining 60. Oh, missed that. So, when I was a kid, I remember seeing glitches like this in the stock game, and it was actually specifically on a computer with an old NVIDIA card, and I just always thought, you know, oh, great, the graphics card just does that, and now I actually understand why this bug happens, and this is floating point inaccuracies in action right there, kind of crazy. And you can see also that RAM usage that you see up there and the VRAM usage, that's from vitaGL. So the RAM usage is actually its internal RAM usage, and you can see we're pegged there. I should probably consider boosting that a little bit. Now we're back in another save, and that's because I want to show off two benchmark levels in this build of the game. So that's the Dungeon of Pain and also the other level here, which is Floating Brick Niche. Now, these are both levels which I'd say stress the Vita. Floating Brick Niche, pretty hard. Dungeon of Pain, more so. But Dungeon of Pain also had floating point inaccuracies that prevented it from being played, and those floating point inaccuracies have been solved. So the Dungeon of Pain is now playable on PlayStation Vita. However, the backgrounds still don't perfectly line up. So let's go ahead and play Floating Brick Niche, and we'll show you what I mean by that, by the fact that it's a good benchmark level. Alright, so we start out and we get, you know, pretty standard 60 FPS. Not too bad right now, even playing as Toad, which spawns a bunch of coins. Alright, and moving through the level here. Doing pretty good, fighting some enemies, getting a little bit of slowdown now. Okay, what's up with that? Comes back. Okay, a little more slowdown. Alright. Ooh, shoot. And now, as you can see, we're starting to get more slowdown. We're going down actually to high 20s, 28, 29, as we're starting to approach the purple brick area here. I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure that the bottleneck is CPU here, which I'm sure has absolutely everything to do with the fact that we are using OpenGL immediate mode right now. But this is mostly a proof of concept renderer. So, but once we actually get into the brick maze, you can see we're mid to upper 30s, which makes the game slow down quite a bit. But I'll start throwing some shells around here, and you can see where it really starts to chug a lug. The game's still playing though, which is, you know, honestly, that's what's more important to me, is that I can sit here and play this on my Vita, even if it is slow. This is still what I've always dreamed about. You know, I've been playing this game for a long time, and I had a PSP when I was a kid, and I always wanted this game on PSP, and I knew that it was never going to happen until one day. You know, I've messed around with decompiling the source code of the game before, but you know, somebody who's a much better programmer than I actually took the time to understand the disassembly and re-implement it in C++, and that's how we got this, which is pretty amazing, you know. Well, that's how we got the TheXTech in the first place, and now I'm able to take the TheXTech and all of Wool's work and port it to the Vita. And you can see we're starting to recover now. There we go. But even still, not fully. Ooh, got him. About to finish this level here so you can see what happens when I'm not very good at the game. Let's move on now to the Dungeon of Pain, and this, as you can see, I finished it, but this is definitely the worst offender here. This is where we see the most slowdown, hands-on, and it's almost right out of the gate. You get a little bit of 60 FPS time, but not a whole lot. Alright, let's go. Let's run through this. Right away, right at the thwomps, we start dropping frames. Oh, Anyway, the slowing down and the speeding up of this can actually sometimes be a bit detrimental. Um, but before in this section, the particular obstacle here would actually go so far into the ground that the little channel that was designed here for you to hide, you literally couldn't. You'd go duck in there and you'd literally get killed because of floating point inaccuracies. And yeah, but after that, we just get some of the worst slowdown we've seen yet. I mean, 17 FPS. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what specifically is slowing it down. I don't know if it's actually the roto discs or not. Uh, but even once we get past the roto discs a little bit, we can see we drop almost to the tens. You know, that's literally 12 frames per second, 10 frames per second. I'm gonna keep roughing through this. Just well, specifically right here. This is the absolute worst part of the level right here. Let's go ahead and you can see that one CPU core is pegged. Let's go ahead and apply a mild overclock to it, and you can see right away just a little bit of an overclock takes us from 12 to 19 frames per second. If we go all the way to the max, we can eke out 21 frames per second. But not everyone's going to have this utility installed on their Vita, unfortunately, and even if you do have this utility installed on your Vita, you're still looking at playing this level with only about 20 frames per second, and that's just not acceptable right now. And even once you start to get further, it actually kind of screws with your brain and makes it even harder to play. But I'm going to struggle through this because I want to take you to the next section and show you that it does get a little better, and you can technically beat this level on Vita, but not really. Alright, let's go through this door here. Oh, and we go through the door and we see some of the single room quad glitches that we were experiencing earlier, but you can see this specific area of the game is very unstable in its frame rate. We get 60 FPS towards the bottom, but as more monsters start to spawn, as we start to get further up, I don't know what it is, something just kind of takes over and eats up some CPU cycles here. I've done a better job at controlling the horde a little bit, so to speak, and found that it still doesn't really make a difference. So this might just be, layer movement might be a particularly challenging thing for the Vita to do. But it is still technically playable. Now I'm gonna beat the final boss and it's gonna be dark, but let's see. See some of the viewport resizing happening there too. Boom. So technically playable, but stay tuned for more updates on this project. I'm going to keep sharing more with you guys as soon as I have more to share with you. You know, as soon as I make some kind of stride or something, or make it just that much closer to a playable release, you guys will know. And yeah, I'm going to go to UX0. And so the game itself installs to the app folder, as you know. it's going to install right here to the TheXTech, and none of the game's resources are in this. This is executable only. So you have to make sure that you put the resources for the game in the data folder and in the subfolder the TheXTech, and you want it to be just like this. And then in there, this is where your battle folder is. This is where your graphics folder is. This is where your logs, music, settings, sound, worlds. This is where all that lives. Um, so yeah.